Welcome to another segment of Mijetteverse, the grown folk frequency, where we discuss everything within our realm and beyond. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you in advance.
Well, hello there, everyone. I just want to say thank you again for uh, joining me for another segment of Mijetteverse. Um, Please, I encourage you to help the algorithm like, comment, share, and again, contact me at mijetteverse@gmail.com, and that's Mijetteverse@gmail.com. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, if you have any products that you'd like for me to help you promote, contact me. If you would like for me to interview certain people that you've always wanted to hear from that are on social media or outside of social media, let me know and I will do my best to contact them to bring them on the show. Now, on my show, I will be covering many topics. They all lead back to spirituality, by the way. We'll be going discussions about relationships, movies, music, food, and yes, intellectual intercourse as well as physical touch intercourse. We need to understand the feminine and the masculine energy must work together. And I believe that when you get spiritual people together, you have better success in marriages and relationships. So, without further ado, I'm going to get into this topic. We had this Brother Moon on last week, and he was so. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how many people inboxed me and asked me if this brother had his own channel and how they can support him. They love the products and the actual knowledge that he had to obtain and get that out to you. By the way, that is called go to his site sovereigncreed.shop and you will see the game, the history they don't teach, and you will also be able to support him. Purchase that for your family reunions. We'll talk about that later. But without further ado, I'm going to bring back on our brother Jay Amaru, and the subject tonight is called "All Skin Folk Ain't Kinfolk." So let's welcome my brother Moon, Jay Amaru.
Peace, my sister. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you
I'm
for having
loving.
me again.
You're welcome. I'm loving the fact that um, it's no such thing as a little audience. Everyone that tuned in to your segment and my sister Pam's segment loved it, and they just asked for more. So, without further ado, you know the topic is all skin folk and kinfolk. So, I'd like you to elaborate.
Yes. First of all, Jay Amaru, peace to the audience. Thank you for everyone tuning in. Thank you to my sister for having me on once again. We have to understand that there are a lot of forces that have joined together to plot against our people. When I say our people, I'm talking about the autochthonous Aboriginal American Indian. Yes, uh, the so-called Negro is the American Indian. We'll get into the genealogy and all the history later, but you must understand there's a reason, um, essentially, why you sit at the bottom of the totem pole. This is bigger than the reparations discussion. Okay, you must understand that these lands, this land of milk and honey, they belong to our ancestors. And with that being said, if you just take a look at a global macro level, you look at all of the countries worldwide, and you take a look at how the indigenous people have been treated. We're talking about genocide. We're talking about apartheid in Africa. You had apartheid here. You look at the Aboriginals in Australia. You look at the just indigenous people everywhere. South
Mhm.
Africa, apartheid, of course. So wherever there's indigenous people,
Mhm.
melanin is synonymous. Okay, it's no different here. Okay, uh, now the difference between us and some of those other indigenous people that I mentioned is they know their oral history on a mass scale. Why? Because they have not left their ancestral land. Okay.
Right.
See, we sit on the continent of our ancestral lands. But unfortunately, on a macro level, we don't live on our ancestral lands, and that's due to a lot of factors. The first factor was during 1830, during the Trail of Tears. So you had a situation where you had the five civilized tribes were given an opportunity to move west of the Mississippi into the territory now known as Oklahoma. And that's where they currently reside with the reservations. We're talking about, tribes like Choctaw, Seminole, Muskogee Creek, et cetera, all of those particular tribes.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to understand that once that happened, the remaining indigenous people who decided not to leave, who didn't sign those treaties, they were reclassified. And all non-reservation Indians were then reclassified.
Now, I didn't mean to cut you off, but let me ask you. I know you said they were not classified or reclassified. Is there a particular, because I know some of the viewers are going to be saying, where do you pretty much get your information from? Can you give at the end?
I'm going to get into that in just a second. I just want to make this particular point in saying that all non-reservation Indians were reclassified as Negro.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that again. All non-reservation Indians were reclassified as Negro. So that first began with the Virginia Department of Vital Statistics. Okay. When you look at your genealogy, and the easiest way to do the genealogy, I would get like either an ancestry.com account or what I use is archives.com. And then you'll be able to research the records. So the census records, the birth records, the marriage records, death records. You'll be able to retrieve that information. And then what you will see is every 10 years, it started in the late 1700s, but it really got popped off in the early 1800s. Literally every 10 years, you would see in some cases a different classification. And the reason why that's important is once you're reclassified from an Indian, which makes you indigenous, which gives you an indigenous sovereign nationality and political status. When you're reclassified as Negro, Negroes were not included in the Constitution. Okay, when you go back to the Dred Scott case and you understand that you're considered 3/5 of a human being. All right, so that grants them the prerogative to treat you any which way you can. And as you see over the course of how we've been treated over the last, 100 and 80, 60, 50 years. I know they try to push that 400-year narrative, but that's a totally different conversation. We're talking specifically once the treaties came into the situation, that this is how they've been able to kind of manipulate the situation. Okay. Then you need to look at how it happened. We understand the what. Now we must understand the how and the why. See, the how it happened is during the Trail of Tears, the melanated chiefs of those tribes were murdered. I will say it again. During the Trail of Tears, the melanated chiefs of those 5 civilized tribes, before they became civilized, when they were just tribes, they were murdered, and they were replaced with Scottish Rite Masons. Okay, Albert Pike, who a lot of people are familiar with from the Theosophical Society, he pretty much birthed the KKK, and he was a Scottish Rite Mason. They basically, all 5 of those civilized tribes, those treaties that they signed to give them the rights to live on the Oklahoma territory, the reservation, those were all Scottish Rite Masons. Okay.
So this is where you get to the reference of all kinfolk ain't skinfolk.
Exactly. And so what we also need to understand is they couldn't do that without the help.
Now, weren't the Moors not only Scottish, they were actually, some of them were melanated too that came over.
Well, and it's funny because a lot of people don't know that, first of all, we were world travelers. I'm referencing the autochthonous Aboriginal American Indian. We were world travelers, and some of our ancestors left Turtle Island and traveled to Scotland and Ireland and Britain and Spain and Portugal. But and a lot of them didn't come back. And the ones that did come back, they came back with a more of a Eurocentric frame of mind. And so, unfortunately, I hate to say this, but a lot of our ancestors who came back to these lands, they came back with ulterior motives, and it wasn't necessarily
all skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Exactly. And so they knew, because think about this land of milk and honey. Okay, there was no way that European Caucasoid foreigners could come here and seize our land without help.
And that's global. 98% of the population is melanated.
Exactly.
2% is not. But the melanated, as he's speaking of, had to overthrow their own selves to bring someone else into power.
And we got to use common sense here. I mean, you can just look at urban areas all over the country. If you go to the hood and you're not from that particular area, you need a what? You need an escort. If you go to South Central LA, you need an escort. You go to Compton, LA, you need an escort. If you go to certain parts of Oakland, you need an escort. If you go to Southside Chicago, you need an escort. You go to neighborhoods in Cleveland, Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, Brooklyn, Harlem, Staten Island, Queens, DC, Baltimore, East Baltimore, West Baltimore. Right. You get the picture. Liberty City in Miami. You go to the New Orleans, South Dallas, South Houston,
Nashville, Memphis.
You just name it. Just name an area that's heavily populated by our people in an urban ghetto, whatever you want to call it. You can't go there if you're an outsider without an escort.
Yeah.
So what makes you think that a foreigner who didn't look like us could come to our ancestral land and be welcome?
Had to been overthrown by inside out. That's how it's usually done.
Infiltration has been the enemy's one of their greatest tactics that they've used over time, and it
always works.
Exactly. And so when we fast forward, so we go through Reconstruction, and they started to bring the European here in droves through Ellis Island in New York City, and those were Slavs. And think of the word slave. Slave is derived from the word Slav. You think about the word Czechoslovakian, Slav. So so we had the Irish Slavs, the Scottish Slavs. You had the Germanic Slavs, the Jewish Slavs,
the
Italian Slavs. So the reason why reparations is such a difficult conversation for these people, because you got to include everybody. Because what is one of their other favorite weapons whenever it comes down to the reckoning and dealing with our people and giving back what's owed to us? They always do what? Push immigration. Push
inclusion to immigration.
Niggas want their land back. They want reparations. They want money. They want remedy. Cue in the immigration. And so what happens is you bring in people that kind of look like us, who are on code, but not on code with us. They're on code.
All skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Exactly. And so what happens is
I like the way you said that.
They'll go to the Caribbean, or go to Africa, or go to the UK, and they'll bring over people who look just like us. And you think they're one of you until they open their mouth and you hear their dialect and you hear them speaking a different language.
And you hear their stance.
Exactly.
Because it is no myth that a lot of times our own melanated people, whether it's cliquish and religion, Masons, fraternities, sororities, they tend to have this cliquish frame of mind. And when they open their mouth as a foreigner or a domestic, you can tell whose side they're on. All skin folk is not kinfolk.
Well, why? Since they've been W.E.B. Du Bois, whatever you want to call his ass. When he was talked about the talented 10th, they strategically recruited certain individuals from certain families who were influential. And instead of them fighting for liberation, they wanted them to participate in their own gatekeeping, if you will. And then if you think about how Sigma Pi Phi, the first Black fraternity that was established in Philadelphia in 1906, I believe, and then followed by the Greek fraternities. You have to think all of these fraternities were established for a reason. It was to create um, almost like a copycat secret society, and it was basically to gatekeep the
Yes.
wild Indian.
Right.
That's what it was for, and that's why they was also pushing a lot of this rhetoric. Not to get too deep into it, but the out of Africa theory, it was extremely important and vital because once you start
It's
to
the
kill off,
knowledge.
yeah,
Yep.
you kill off the elders, and if you have
Hmm.
people who are indigenous to this land, and you make them think that they come from somewhere else,
Then they have no claim and no
they have
stake.
no culture. They have no
Yes.
claim. And you
They
have to
cannot
understand
claim it.
this
Yep.
is why we are the only melanated group of people on planet Earth that on a macro level don't have an oral history. That's why we're claiming we want to hold on to something on another continent
Right.
because we want to feel a part of something. Even Jesse Jackson said it himself when he started to push that whole African American narrative. He said we needed to have a nationality because we lacked the nationality, and so he wanted us to basically have a culture, and so that's why they strategically socially
Right.
engineered that whole concept of African American.
And
And
right, I want to jump in and say, even when you look at the food, like you said, we have no origin. Even as far as the food, we were here, our people were here tilling the land and growing the crops. But what did they give Black so-called African Americans? They gave us the worst food, and we call it surviving under slob. You know what I mean? Just the worst of the worst, the chitlins and all of that stuff, and we made a delicacy out of it. But every other culture, ethnic culture, has healthy food as an origin, so we totally lost everything.
Absolutely. Our indigenous ancestors, they hunted wild game, wild fish, and ate wild plants. So where we got to a point where we were consuming domesticated animals that were brought here specifically by the European, the nitrogen-based European, when we're carbon-based individuals, and
Right.
we're consuming foods that are not natural to this land, that were breeded, crossbreeded specifically for consumption. We've been eating for a millennia. We've been eating foods that don't agree with us, and we wonder why we have
And right, and we call it soul food,
generational
but it's
ailments.
killing our souls and our spirits.
Exactly, because we're not supposed to be consuming those foods, and that's
Mhm.
why we have lost. We've gotten out of touch. But just to stay on target, so we need to understand a lot of these organizations. And you think when you go, you even look at high school, how uh, when you get to a point, maybe you become an upperclassman, maybe like your junior year or whatever, and you start looking at colleges, and they want to know what student organizations do you
Mhm.
belong to? The honor society. Are you a part of student government? The Glee Club? Are
Mhm.
you part of theater? Say they want you to be involved in all of these organizations is because now they have a better opportunity to be able to influence you in a certain direction. And so, like when you're part of this junior honor society and all of these different, these are like affiliations.
Right.
And so once you get off to college and now it's a seamless transition into these particular fraternities. And then you also, if you have like family legacy in a lot of these fraternities, then that's
They
even
want you to
more.
pledge where they pledge,
Exactly,
and go to
exactly.
school
So
and get the honors there.
exactly, and you keep what? You keep the oaths, you keep the
Yes.
secrets. They teach you about keeping secrets, and they
Hmm.
they naturally indoctrinate you into a gatekeeping scenario. But they're not out in public with this stuff. So they focus on the service and they
Right.
focus on the stepping and all of the social stuff. But what these organizations from their inception, what they've been designed to do was to
Right.
indoctrinate uh, a middle to upper class Negro on how to
Yes.
think a certain kind of way. And, matter of fact, he should know, but Carter G. Woodson touched on this in his best-selling book, The Miseducation of the Negro.
Hmm.
Because you started to adopt all of these Eurocentric philosophies that have nothing to do with your people, and they're designed to basically keep us from being unified. And so that still
So
goes
they're
on to this
basically,
day.
it's just an overseer
It's a gatekeeper.
It's a
Exactly.
gatekeeper, overseer for its own people, and then you dress them up in tiers so that each one can strive to get to that tier. And you still, you give them the reward, you dangle the carrot. I believe most of the schools that actually the HBCUs have origins with European influence.
So since we're talking about it, we need to understand that Howard University, Morehouse, and Spelman were all named after Caucasoid European people.
And I think
Okay.
it's a lot more too.
Yeah, there's more, but I'm just going to focus on those three because
Yeah.
those are pretty much some of the three of the most prestigious institutions historically for HBCUs. They were named after. So, I mean, Morehouse was named after, Spelman was named after John D. Rockefeller's wife.
Yeah.
And if you know all the things that John D. Rockefeller did to,
it's not a plus for us. It's basically deeper in the rabbit hole.
Exactly.
And
I mean, we can go even further. We can talk about like organizations like the NAACP. We can talk about the National Urban League, the Congressional Black Caucus, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. All of these organizations have been very instrumental with all of the historical time periods that put us in the predicament that we are in today. You think about the civil rights movement, the integration, the Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954, and you think about the 60s civil rights movement. If you can fast forward, we can even look at the so-called Black Power movement. A lot of people don't know that was a psyop. And I know a lot of people are going to get upset with me saying that, but when you do research and you find out the background of the Stokely Carmichael, when you realize that he was pretty much an agent, and he was strategically came into the picture right around the time when Dr. King had kind of stepped back from his integration methodology and started to
the government knows exactly who to let in power.
He started to look into the economic side. He started studying the Homestead Act. I'm sure everyone, well, not everyone, but most people have seen those videos of him talking about, he's coming, next time we come to Washington, we're coming to get our check. And I posted, if you go to my page on the History They Don't Teach, we show some clips that most people haven't seen of him really stressing and pushing that economic equation. But once again, he was another one of these Sigma Pi Phi Boule members who made a living betraying his people, and unfortunately it didn't work out for him. And so before he left this earth, he wanted to make amends, so to speak. And so they made him a martyr. What should they do? So I'm not going to sit up here and act like I'm a pro MLK, but I understand his time in history was necessary, and I'm glad the fact that he was able to come to terms with his mistake. And unfortunately, he didn't live.
And he did too come to terms. A lot of
he definitely came to terms.
A lot of people don't want to deal with that.
With Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, and these other.
He totally knew.
Because and this, I'm gonna be quite honest with you, his brethren, the Jesse Jacksons and the John Lewises and everybody who was in that picture on the balcony, they all set him up. They knew what time it was.
You know what? It's amazing. Everyone got rewarded off of the death of Martin Luther King.
Everybody got a position. Everybody
got rewarded.
The first black mayor of Atlanta. He got his own street. John Lewis came up. Jesse Jackson came up. Everybody came up. You got to think about that.
And we have not gotten farther. We haven't gone any further.
Because think about it. When you look at politics and they say you need to get in the insides to make change, bullshit. The system was never designed for us in the first place.
Never.
Okay, so the only way we're gonna politically make a move is when we have a defined political status, which is our indigenous heritage. Until we know who we are and we can move as a focus group like some of these foreigners do, a political action group. Then we can make some noise. Right. But until that happens, as long as we're still checking Black and African American on the census and in our job applications, they got us, because when you select that, you pretty much are co-signing for a 14th Amendment.
Right. And as long as we play the game of, I'm gonna join this league, join that, to try to get their favor, when we know that once we get into office, from it, that whether it be local or federal, we turn on each other. All skin folk and kinfolk. If that were not true, we would see all of the fraternities, sororities, Masons all align up, come with an agenda, and get it done. They have enough influence, but they have not done it.
Well, the reason why is because they've taken an oath. All of those people. I don't care if you're a Mason. I don't care if you're in a sorority or fraternity. I mean, just look at the 2020 election. You look at, the Alpha Kappa Alpha fraternity, aka, they were more concerned with the fact that one of their own was elected as the Democratic vice president elect than actually taking a look at her actual record. Mm-hmm. And someone who previously lived in California who can tell you exactly about her record.
We know about Kamala Harris, correct?
Yes, we know about Kamala Harris and what she did. And so, she wasn't pro-Black or pro-Aboriginal or pro-melanin, if you want to will. It's kind of ironic that
when she was kissing Willie Brown.
Exactly.
When she was with Willie Brown, that's her Black.
That part, when she was, running the streets with Montel Jordan, you know what I'm saying? But when it comes down to being a president-elect, she's Black when she needs to push that agenda. But when she doesn't,
and our people
she's back to being Hindu. She's an East Indian mother of an immigrant,
right? But our people will sit back and vote for any melanated skin, regardless what they prove on the ballot, before the ballot. They still are looking at superficial, which is, again, why I created this channel, because I want us to look deeper, dig deeper to spirituality, because we haven't gotten any further than from Martin Luther King. We haven't gained anything.
I can make a case that we've actually gotten worse. And a lot of people will probably want to disagree, but see, y'all looking at socially, yeah, they'll give you some social status just because a couple entertainers have
give you a Supreme Court judge,
a certain level of wealth, and,
right?
They love to give us, like Malcolm said in the 60s, they give us these token symbols of gratitude. So
you don't rock the boat.
Token symbolism. These fake leaders that they introduce.
We got you a vice president. You had a president over 400 years. What more do you want?
Yeah, you got, President Obama, and then all he did was, his first spring in office, he declined to attend the UN's meeting for human rights, and the topic of discussion was the reparations for Black people or melanated people or whatnot. He refused to attend due to the conversation because it was he didn't like the dialogue that was taking place. There was
too many undertones
accusing
or overtones.
Israel of genocide. Right. I mean, so he decided.
I totally. That's one thing two things I regret: never seeing Prince and voting for Obama, not once but twice. I regret.
Listen, hold on, let me stop you. I voted for him twice, but I didn't have knowledge of self then. I didn't know.
Yeah,
I was fully indoctrinated.
Yeah, I didn't know either, but that's what I'm saying.
We've all been indoctrinated at some point in form or fashion. So if you didn't know, then that's okay. But once you find out the truth, you have a responsibility.
Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people won't concede that because they're so caught up on the skin, thinking that it's kin. Oh, I can't say it was wrong to vote for him, although we didn't get anything, but the other agendas got passed. But we can't blame him. He's one person. He's one Black man. What are you supposed to do over 500 years when it was this? So we always give it an excuse for the so-called skin. We always do it as a group.
We've been social engineered to do that way because the way everything works with the media manipulation of our people. So that's just the way it works.
And we don't want to call them out on it. We're uncomfortable.
There's no accountability. Accountability.
No accountability. So we have no responsibility on that. Now, I want to get back to basically what happens after everyone was indoctrinated, and when they came over and the Moors came over and the land was taken, and now we got so-called Native Americans claiming to be Native Americans and indigenous, and now we got a whole plan against us even worse than before, because now we got Africans over here and they're claiming some of it, and then some of our blood did get mixed. Mm-hmm. Now it's a whole mess. Because now we end up with, say you get $20 billion and you got 20 billion people here claiming that. Everybody get $1. That's what they're waiting on. Mm-hmm. So they can disperse $1 like an episode on Martin. Remember when he won the lotto and then he ended up with nothing, probably owed? Mm-hmm. The irony of that?
Well, in answer to your question, we have to go back to the treaties that were passed back in the mid 1800s, because these treaties that pretty much basically what happened was you had certain tribes that were making side deals with the U.S. government that were essentially selling out the group. So you had like, let's say for instance, you have a group of indigenous tribes, whether they're the southeast, northeast. You have a group of indigenous tribes that are banding together and they're fighting the system, fighting the U.S. government, the American colonies. And then you had a couple group of treaties that made side deals to protect their people. And that's what happened. And then so they decided to civilize, which was another terminology for Christianizing and accepting Eurocentric concepts and customs. And so that's what they did. They went to Oklahoma. Everybody else said, we're not doing that. This is our land. We're going to fight. Those are the people that got reclassified as non-reservation Indians and then turned into, they were non-reservation Indians and they got reclassified as Negro, Black, colored, mulatto, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's essentially where we are now. So then what happened was land patents were issued out to people who were deemed free people of color. Then you had the freedmen rolls and that type of situation. But we rebuilt during Reconstruction. We lost lands. Some of us had to relocate in certain areas. Why you start to see a transition and a migration of your family tree of people going from like maybe the Northeast to Mid-Atlantic, the Southeast out to more deep South to the Southwest, et cetera, et cetera. And, we had land patents in those particular areas and we started to build unincorporated communities, self-sufficient, economically thriving communities like they had in Oklahoma with Black Wall Street, like we had in Rosewood, like we had in Detroit, Black Bottom, like we had in Atlanta, all over the country. We had thriving communities. Then what happened? Albert Pike and his posse, the original Birth of a Nation movie came out, and then that KKK started to come through in the 18 teens, and then they started to just ravage. And usually how it was started, they would accuse a melanated man of making a pass at a Caucasoid European, and then that would create a race riot, and then they would come in with lynchings and looting and et cetera, et cetera. And so then what would happen was after a certain time, you see a lot of families. And then I thought you also need to take into consideration, we didn't have that same vigor that we had when we were practicing in our ancestral native spirituality. See, now we've been Christianized.
Right.
We started getting indoctrinated.
And Christians are trained and taught to turn another so-called Christian in if they're bucking against the system.
Exactly.
And this is where I believe, and I know to be true, is why we lost our lands all over the world. We gave in and caved in and got brainwashed.
Well, also because there were some traitors. There's always traitors.
That's what I'm saying. There's all skin folk and kinfolk, and I think that's a conversation.
Even in Africa, during dumb diverses, when Portugal and Spain were coming to the west coast of Africa and they were Christianizing the African kingdoms, you had African kings that were taking a knee and bowing and Christianizing, and then they would drop dimes on all of the Muslim Moorish territories, like the Oyo dynasty up in like modern day Nigeria. Because if you ever meet a Nigerian in modern times, they're usually always Christian, and you try to wonder, how the hell are you from Nigeria? They're all Christianized, man.
Yeah, and recently they just killed a girl who was Muslim. And because she talked bad about one of the leaders or something, they stoned her.
Where in Nigeria?
In Nigeria, she was Muslim. The Muslim community is growing there, and they killed her and then burned her just the other day. So I just noticed through all religion, a lot of people are left out because you turn on your own spirituality when you know if you rape the land, meaning if you if you overwork the land until the land is going to be no more good. You have to put back into the community, put back into the land so it can grow and prosper. But religion doesn't teach that. Religion teaches to destroy, take over, conquer, and then put up shrines.
And I'm gonna tell you something else it does. It disconnects us from our ancestors.
Oh yeah,
Because
definitely.
that's what indigenous spirituality is all about. The ancestors are intertwined in your DNA. It's like a computer system. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. You get a computer, if you update to this particular software, but you got the version for 15 generations ago. It's the same situation. We
Yes.
disconnect from our ancestors when we start to adopt these religions that our ancestors did not practice.
Yeah, they did not practice it, did not approve it. And what you're doing is, because the mind is a computer, so you're allowing spyware, malware, cookies to come in and infiltrate your computer in connection to your spirituality. And a lot of people don't want to look at it that way, but that's exactly what happens. You become numb to even listening to the voice of your ancestors. The ancestors are talking.
And believe it or not, like the food you eat, that has an effect on your ability to receive those messages. Like you have to say your intuition. That's a lot of times that's your ancestors having a conversation with you. When you feel something deep in your soul that something isn't right, and you don't listen to it, you're ignoring it, is because that's divine right there. That's the
Yeah,
divine.
that's real divine right there. And I think a lot of people are, once they become spiritual, they always ask this question: how do I awaken my third eye? First of all, you have to be in tune to yourself and understand and live with accountability. And if you're following directions, like Jay pointed out earlier, if you're steadily trying to just gain up the ladder of popularity within an organization to keep climbing, how do you think you're going to be useful to your community because you've been bought out?
Well,
You forgot.
you're going to be the complete opposite, because just like
Yeah.
in professional sports, you look at the entertainment industry, and that was part of one of the reasons why I knew I wasn't going to have too much longevity in that particular arena, is because I have a conscience, I have integrity, and
Because it won't work. You're
no,
right.
you can't. There's a fine line, and you can only go but so far as an independent entertainer, whether it's an actor or a musician. Eventually you're gonna have to make a choice, and I decided that my integrity and my accountability was non-negotiable, and being on a tizu wasn't quite as important.
Right. And a
I
lot of
turned
people
down an
wouldn't.
opportunity to audition for a national commercial called, a lot of people probably seen it, called Nugenics, with Hall of Fame baseball player Frank Thomas. And they basically wanted me to be a buffoon, pretty much pull a Terry Crews, and I wasn't going to do it.
Oh my God. And you know how many people have done that, and they went deeper and deeper to the rabbit hole, and they don't even, their mind, they have to go see a shrink, and they want to, say that it was the devil that made them do it, when they don't give themselves accountability for wanting it so bad that they would do anything.
Man, I could say so much in that regard, but
I mean, but we have to be honest. This is why we have no real measurement of improvement in our community, because everybody wants to be a celebrity. Everybody wants to, be a part of the boule, and
you know why that is, sis? We're traumatized.
Oh yeah,
we've been traumatized for many generations, and that's why they got all this metaverse stuff, because we've been living in our avatar for quite some time. We just didn't know it. It was before social media. It's because we don't like the skin that we're in. When we're
right
trying to lighten our skin tone to look like something else, when we're trying to do
everything,
plastic surgery to make our noses more narrow, and things of that nature.
They even got decrease your lips. Did you know that? A lot of
people extracting their melanin, et cetera,
taking their features,
marrying outside of our
taking ass out of women have been known to take ass out. You know how they putting it in? There's a lot of them taking their asses out. They don't want any
There's nothing that surprises me up to
don't want
this
to be
point.
recognized to have any black features. And
yeah.
You're right. And that's what, I did have a lot of people inbox me about the shirts as well as the game again. So in the last few minutes, I'd like for you to just go over about 2 minutes, go over the shirts. And because again, too many of us want Versace, but we don't like ourselves. So we want to uplift an Italian's name, don't like our name, uplift their culture, don't like our culture. So, but I did have a few. So for the few who have contacted me, I'm going to let Brother Jay Amaru tell us about the shirt and the shirts collectively and the game.
Well, first of all, I appreciate anyone who's expressed interest in our clothing line. We actually like to believe that we're more than just a clothing line. We're a lifestyle. And basically, these shirts were cultivated in 2020 with everything that was going on during that particular election year with, the political propaganda, the health things going on. And basically, essentially, these shirts are designed, they're comfortable clothing, crafted for the free thinker. They make bold statements, and we want you to be able to live out your truth without fear of persecution. So a lot of times when you want to have a conversation piece or a starter, the T-shirt will speak for you. It's like you're like a walking billboard, but be prepared. With that shirt comes a lot of responsibility because you're likely going to be asked what that means, but that's okay. But it's a conversation piece. And so as far as the game was concerned, following the election of 2020, and I saw some of the rhetoric that was going on across the country, I realized that, yes, the T-shirt apparel company is wonderful, but we need to dig deeper than that. We need to really look into the content. And I was really thinking about the entire family. I was thinking about the children. I was thinking about parents. I was thinking about everyone. And so we came up with this game, the history they don't teach.
Hold it up a little bit to the, right there.
There we go.
Okay.
I get in line with the camera. And so this particular game was designed to reward the researcher, the black sheep of the family, the person that everyone wants to deem a conspiracy theorist, the people who ask a lot of questions, that question everything, that think outside of the box, that don't jump when the world tells them to jump, people that took the red pill instead of the blue pill. If you feel like you resonate with one of those type of individuals, then this is definitely the game for you. And even if you aren't, even if you like to just, you think you know a little bit about history, you can test your knowledge. But see, the thing about this game is we're not telling his story. We're telling our story, and we're telling all of it, And so we're basically talking about the history of the U.S. corporation, because if you know anything, you know that this is not a country or a government. It never has and never will be. It's a corporation that has foreign interests. And that could be ever more apparent than what you've witnessed the last 2 years. And what you probably, maybe some of you have, but, even the things that are current headlines or that are coming up today with regards to the WHO and the WHO, for those who are not familiar, and just like the war in Ukraine, and you see everything they're doing with basically bringing
this is going to have some current as well as
bringing the Ukrainians over here. And, for those of you who are frustrated with the fact that in certain particular states, they decided to remove critical race theory from your child's curriculum, well, guess what? You don't got to rely on that. You can teach it to yourself because it's
totally relevant for the viewers. It's relevant past the past.
Coming from a different perspective. It's not just talking about the
past,
what,
present, and future.
The how and the stressing the why. Because you need to know all of those things. You can't just focus on the what. You need to know the how, and you need to know the why.
And when it happened, where it happened, because they're not going to tell you. Remember, the name of the game is
The History They Don't Teach.
That's right. So where can they find it? We're getting ready to log out.
So they can go to www.sovereigncreed.shop, and you'll be able to locate the game. It's on the home page. And so it's currently retailed at $49.95. We're doing a current promotion. If you purchase the game we'll even include free shipping for you.
Yes.
So, and I want to tell everyone else, and we also have Shopify payments, and so you can do it in installments for any purchase 50 and up.
Oh,
You
nice.
can also do it through Afterpay. So if you want to purchase in installments, if you want to say, for instance, you want to purchase a game, and you also see some of the shirts
Right.
that you like, and like I said, we've pretty much got shirts for everybody. We got shirts for the conscious community. We got shirts for people that want to live by a certain code. If you are really big into economics and motivation, we have a line for that. Me, outside of being a content creator and owning this particular game, as you can see behind me, I'm a former boxer enthusiast. So this is one of our shirts. It's our motto for our boxing company. It's called "Train like a fighter, live like a champion."
Awesome.
So we even have a fitness and a health collection, and once again we outfit the entire family. We've got shirts for mom and dad, the kids, all the way to the baby.
All right. So you guys have got to support. You have to share the video. And again, I'm going to leave the comment inside the video. I'm going to have a link to sovereigncreed.shop. And I encourage you to get this. Be supportive, learn something. You must put time into you so that you can be able to be here to tell everything the way it is, because information is changing. And remember, those who dictate and conquer change the law and change the perspective. And this is what's happening. So the history they don't teach, you got to get.
Thank you, sis.
You're welcome. So I'm going to sign out for now. For now, we're going to have our brother on another time. Our brother Moon. Now listen, I'm so excited because our next topic we're going to deal with, you guys are not going to want to miss it. I also had 3 comments ask me, where's my 3? 3 comments asked me to ask Brother Jay Amaru about aliens. So our next topic, we'll be filming that soon. He's going to expound on his interpretation and his enlightenment on aliens. So you don't want to miss that. Thank you, brother, for coming on, Brother Moon. I appreciate
Peace
it.
and love, sis. I humble gratitude. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak on your platform. You have no idea.
Anytime. I'm excited because I can't wait, because I think we're gonna have to film this one soon. Because I had 3 people contact me. What is Brother Jay? Does he have a YouTube channel? How can I want to hear what he has?
To answer that, we have a podcast that's kind of on hiatus right now. To be honest with everyone, we were getting railroaded by this particular platform. I'm surprised that they even allowed me to speak right now. But when I was trying to do my show back in January, we had a lot of interference, technical difficulties. So half the time I'm interviewing or speaking with my panelists, because I had 3 panelists that I would have every Wednesday, and it was difficult just getting through the first 15 minutes without having a lag or a delay. And I had all kind of extra modems and things going on, so all of this stuff, I would be talking, I wouldn't even be able to see my mouth move. It was just ridiculous.
What? Well, we're glad you're on here, so you're more than welcome to come on. You can come on without me.
And I'll be honest with you, I
I'll give you the reins,
because the type of research and I had montages. People who are familiar with the Sovereign Creed show, you caught us on Clubhouse, you caught us on YouTube, that you was gonna go on a journey, but it's very time consuming. So I would much just rather be a guest on your show.
We would definitely love to have you, because my motto is, if it ain't fun, I'm not coming on. So I enjoy and I love the energy of my guests. And again, I ask you all to like, comment, subscribe to Mijetteverse so you can hear more enlightenment. And I won't use the word learn, because I don't know if you're learning, but hopefully you'll have some type of enlightenment. And that's my hope. And that's what I started the show for. So on that note, thank you. Please share the video, comment. Let us know what else you would like to hear from Brother Jay. What would you like to hear, or even from anyone else for me to talk about? Also, go on to Comedic Life, sign up there, post there. I'm one of the moderators. I will definitely put your perspective on. We'd like to hear from you. And I love everybody. Talk to everybody soon. Thank you. Good night. Thank you, Brother Moon Jay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Till next time, Ashe.